Good morning and good afternoon, everyone in Indonesia and Australia. We hope you are keeping well and safe wherever you are. Welcome to this webinar series, Session 3, Maximizing AIESEPA New Opportunities in South Kalimantan. I would like to acknowledge the organizers of this webinar, the Indonesian Embassy in Canberra, the Indonesian Investment Promotion Center, IIPC in Sydney, the Indonesian Consulate Generals in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and Consulate in Darwin, Australia-Indonesia Business Council, AIBC, and the Regional Investment Office of South Kalimantan Province. This webinar will be the last of the series for this round to showcase ready to offer investment opportunities in Indonesia. Our special topic of today is to explore opportunities in the South Kalimantan Province. I am Amalia Sosrodirejo, South Australia Chair of the Australia-Indonesia Business Council. I am honored to be part of this webinar and would like to welcome you all on behalf of the organizers. I would like to especially acknowledge the participation of our special guests, the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Republic of Indonesia in Canberra, Mr. Muhammad Syarif Alatas, the Indonesian Consuls General, Pak Heru in Sydney, Ibu Spika in Melbourne, Ibu Dewi in Perth, and Consul Pak Gulfan in Darwin, representatives of regional government offices in South Kalimantan, and also IIPC Director Pak Henry in Sydney. In this webinar, as well as other future webinars, is an indicator of a strong intent from both countries to see through the successful implementation of AIESEPA together with the supporting organizations such as IIPC and IABC. Before we start our presentations today, I would like to present a brief overview of Indonesia's investment portfolio in general and South Kalimantan in particular. According to the latest official data released by BKPM, Indonesian Investment Coordinating Board, investment realization in the first semester of 2020 shows an encouraging sign of growth despite the COVID-19 outbreak. In total, both domestic and foreign investment realization in the first half of 2020 increased by 1.8% compared to the last period of last year to more than 400 trillion rupiah. Of this number, close to 52% of the total realization came from domestic investors, which the rest came from overseas. South Kalimantan was ranked number 19th as the main foreign investment destination in Indonesia. In the first half of 2020, it made a total of 164.8 million US dollars of foreign investment. Most of the FDI in South Kalimantan so far are in electricity, gas, water supplies, mining, food crops, plantation, animal husbandry, chemical and pharmaceutical industry, and food industry. Today, we will hear three exciting South Kalimantan regional government-owned companies working on projects such as beef cattle husbandry and range development, waste-to-energy power plant in Banjarmasin, dam and hydropower plant in Kusan Dam. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. Throughout today's event, you can post questions in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We will be drawing questions from those and some that has been submitted in advance for the Q&A session. Each presentation will be delivered in English, which preceded by a video. The Q&A session will be in Bahasa Indonesia that will be translated into English. Please note that this is not an automatic translation, therefore English translation will follow intermittently during this session. We allocate 30 minutes for the Q&A session after all presentations from our panelists. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Deputy Chief of Mission of the Republic of Indonesia in Canberra, Mr. Muhammad Syarif Alatas, to make his opening remarks.
Thank you, Ibu Amalia. Yang saya hormati Bapak Nafarin, Head of Regional Investment Office of South Kalimantan, Bapak Ahmad Yamini, Head of Statistics and Coding Section, Department of Communication and Information, Tanah Laut Regency Regional Government, Bapak Murianta, Head of Regional Investment Office, the City of Banjarmasin, Bapak Alain Fillmore Harris, Subdivision, Head Planning Division, Department of Public Work and Spatial Planning, South Kalimantan, Regional Government Official from South Kalimantan Province, of course my colleague Bapak Henry Rombe, Director of Indonesian Investment Promotion Center in Sydney, our colleagues from Australian Indonesian Business Council, AIBC, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning in Indonesia and good afternoon from us in Australia. First of all, thank you for joining us in today's webinar series entitled Maximizing IASEPA New Opportunities in South Kalimantan. Today's webinar will be the third and final part of our series. I would like to welcome our participants and also welcome back participants of our previous webinar. Our aim in convening this webinar series is to encourage and support the full and effective implementation of IASEPA. This webinar series is a follow-up of the virtual Indonesian-Australian Business Summit on Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership amid COVID-19. We have convened on 4th of June 2020. Furthermore, on 29th of June 2020, our Consulate General in Sydney had collaborated with ITPC and IIPC in Sydney to convene a virtual meeting with the Regional Investment Office, the Regional Development Agency, and the Indonesian Central Bank Representative Office in South Kalimantan, as well as potential exporters from the province. The meeting identified the potential sectors and commodities for boosting trade, investment, and tourism between South Kalimantan and Australia. To further our effort in promoting the opportunities offered by IASEPA, this webinar series came into fruition. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 1.5 hours, you will hear about concrete investment opportunities in South Kalimantan's growing economy. South Kalimantan is one of the main destinations for foreign investment realization among Indonesian provinces. The total value of foreign investment in South Kalimantan until June 2020 is $164.8 million with 138 projects. South Kalimantan is also aiming to strengthen its economy by welcoming investment in key sectors such as mining, agriculture, animal husbandry, energy, and health. It is important to note that South Kalimantan and Australia have a strong foundation for partnership, particularly in trade and investment. As we see, in terms of investment, in 2019, Australia was the fourth largest foreign investor in South Kalimantan, with 8 projects valued at $28.5 million. In the first quarter of 2020, Australia rose to become the second largest foreign investor, with investment value at $745,300,000. Most Australian investment in South Kalimantan is in the mining sector. Meanwhile, in trade sector, the export trend from South Kalimantan to Australia during 2018-2019 increased 4.32%. Commodities exported from South Kalimantan mainly include wood and its products, rattan, and also rubber. However, beyond this statistic, Australia and South Kalimantan also have a history of cooperation that has brought our economies and also people close together. First, South Kalimantan was chosen as one of the pilot projects for the Indonesian-Australia Commercial Cattle Breeding Program, or IACCB, under the Indonesian-Australia Partnership on Food Security and Red Meat and Cattle. This program aimed to develop a more competitive, efficient, and sustainable Australia-Indonesia red meat and cattle industry as part of a globally competitive commercial supply chain. In 2016, the first shipment had arrived in South Kalimantan with around 300 Australian cattle. Since 2016, IACCB has provided a total of 1,343 Australian breeding cattle that has produced 880 calves. Moreover, in 2018, the University of Adelaide and University of Lambung Mangkurat collaborated to train community public health centers in South Kalimantan and conduct research to address the problem of neonatal mortality. And furthermore, during the 2014-2015 period, the annual Australia-Indonesian Youth Exchange Program had visited Western Australia and South Kalimantan. Through that program, 18 Indonesians and 18 Australians had stayed for a month in Matone Village, South Kalimantan, to carry out community development program. So it is our hope that we will be able to further increase and diversify economic cooperation between South Kalimantan and Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, building upon the aforementioned foundation that have been established, I believe that today's presentation of these three projects will help boost further economic cooperation between South Kalimantan and Australia. These are projects with great potential in various sectors, which are ready and available for you to seize. Firstly, a project for beef cattle husbandry and range development in one of the main cattle producing area, the Tanah Laut Regency. And secondly, a waste to energy power plant in Banjarmasin to support the provincial capital cities population and many industry around the area. Thirdly, a hydropower plant in Kusandam as an energy and drinking water source for irrigation and flood control. With the entry into force of IASEPA, these opportunities become even more open and accessible to Australian investors. IASEPA highlights a commitment to increase investment in various key sectors, particularly for energy, infrastructure, and power plant. Export of live cattle from Australia will be duty-free for 575,000 cattle in the first year. This quota will grow 4% annually in volume. I certainly hope that everybody present will make the most of today's webinar to discuss how best to take advantage of this opportunity. Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, to close, allow me to extend my appreciation to our friends and colleagues who have put their time and effort into making this webinar series a reality. To our Consul Generals in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, as well as our consul in Darwin, to our colleagues at the Indonesian Investment Coordinating Board and IIPC Sydney, to our good friend at AIBC who joined in our tireless endeavor to further advance Indonesia-Australia economic relation. Thank you very much. Thank you, and I wish you a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Deputy Chief of Mission of the Republic of Indonesia for the opening remarks. I would like to invite Mr. Navarin for the for opening, for giving the remarks. Mr. Navarin, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Amalia Sisro-Diorejo.
Welcome to South Kalimantan. South Kalimantan lies in a strategic position, located on the central of Indonesia and close to archipelagic sea lanes, free of tectonic activity and volcanoes, with 37,000 square meters total area. South Kalimantan has potential of extraordinary natural resources or local products that can compete with other regions. The other sector in South Kalimantan is palm oil. The area has 423,000 hectares with total production 1.4 million tons and export value is $1.18 billion. Rubber is also became a prime sector in South Kalimantan with 271,000 hectares with total production 190,000 tons and export value is $233 million. On the other hand, rattan has great potential with 1.3 million stems every year. The export value is $633,000. In marine and fishery sectors, South Kalimantan fishery production produce 253,000 tons every year. The potential of animal husbandries in South Kalimantan are swamp buffalo, Alabeau duck, beef cattle. Batu Licin Industrial Zone has opportunities as metal industry, mining processing industry, chemical industry, machine industry, and others. Jorong Industrial Zones is integrated industrial and port. The area has 1,800 hectares, has opportunities in mining sector, farm sector, marine and fishery, animal husbandry, and forestry. Syamsuddin Nur International Airport and Aero City in Banjarbaru. It has functioned as tourism gate. It has business opportunities as retail, hotel industry, warehouse, and industrial zones. Tapin Dam. It has electrical potency 3.3 megawatt. Kusan Dam. It has electrical potency 27 megawatt. The development of Sport City. The business opportunities are sport facility support, shopping mall, athletic homestead, hotel, business center, and others. Meratus Mountain Geopark is a sustainable management concept development that combines three natural diversity, geodiversity, biodiversity, and cultural diversity as geotourism to increase economic growth. Let's invest in South Kalimantan.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Amalia Sisro-Diorejo. I would like to explain about profile of South Kalimantan. Your Excellency, Deputy Chief of Mission of the Republic Indonesia in Canberra, Mr. Muhammad Shadid Alatas, the Honorable Professor from Australia, Head of Agencies and Institutions in South Kalimantan, distinguished girls, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. First of all, on behalf of the government of South Kalimantan Province, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to participate in today's webinar series on maximizing Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, ECEPA. I would like to begin by thanking to Indonesian Embassy for Australia for facilitating this meeting, and also IPC Sydney, Mr. Henry Rombe, for conducting this webinar series, so that we could promote our potential investment in South Kalimantan Province. As part of ECEPA, ready to offer investment project, South Kalimantan are highlighted 3 main projects that has been our focus to develop. These projects are mainly focused on how South Kalimantan will support Indonesian food security and energy, but also considering sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, located in the center of Indonesia, South Kalimantan Province consists of 11 regencies and 2 cities. It has 37,530 kilometers squares, or 3.7 million hectares. It is the smallest province in Kalimantan, populated over 4.1 million people. Right now, we already have supporting infrastructure like harbor, ports, and airport. Our international airport, located in Banjarbaru City, has been officially opened since 2019. We also have small airport to support regional air connectivity. 3 supporting airports located in Tanjung Regency, the Warikan Airport, Sanjir Alam Airport in Kota Baru, and Bersujud Airport in Batu Licin. Another supporting infrastructure we have the fort. The southern part of our region are crossed by 2 archipelagic sea land, which make it strategic for trade enhancement and interconnectivity. The southern part of our region has potential ports such as Batu Licin Port, Mekar Putih, and Suarangan Port, which is still under construction. Besides this, the small port, we have Trisakti Harbor in Banjarmasin, which services ferries to and from Java and passenger ships. Besides this infrastructure, our region has no volcano and potential earthquake. This geographical benefit was probably one of the attractions in our region. Additionally, the President of Indonesia already announced Indonesia's new capital in Kalimantan. Therefore, South Kalimantan will be the gate to inter-Indonesian new capital. Therefore, our development are aimed not only to support our region, but also the new capital of Indonesia as the closed province. Ladies and gentlemen, since we are still developing, we are open to potential investors for certain areas, especially areas that will be presented today. Our showcase investments are mainly related to husbandry and renewable energy. This is how our 2 governments committed to sustainable development for the society. To begin with, I would like to briefly introduce our potential investment. The first investment is with cattle husbandry and ranch development. Our well-known cattle producing is located in Tanah Laut Regency, having over 90,000 big cattle population in 2019 and over 10,000 of it are exported to other regions. Our cattle production are one of the main supply in South Kalimantan. The other 2 projects, that's open for investment are waste-to-energy power plant in Banjarmasin and hydropower plant development in Kusam-Den. Large number of waste in Basiri landfill can be used as alternative to create renewable energy in South Kalimantan. Meanwhile, the hydro energy in Kusam Dam would also be another energy alternative to support in the favor in the development of industrial zone in South Kalimantan. Ladies and gentlemen, South Kalimantan commitment to the sustainable development is shown by our project to develop renewable energy resources. We have not only water as source of energy like in Kusamden, but also with two energy projects to develop. This energy will potentially support our industry and economic zone in the northern part is at Tanah Bumbu and Tanah Laut Regency. This industrial zone are close to Indonesian new capital, with also a huge advantage to emphasize. We need competitive environment to boost our potential to the fullest. To end my speech, on behalf of the government in South Kalimantan Province, I would like to thank you for your kind attention and to my ribbon. We're waiting for you to come to invest South Kalimantan Province. Let's invest Kalimantan Province. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nafarin. My really apology for have missed you to ask you to present your video and your remarks. So, Mr. we just saw the video profile of South Kalimantan video from Mr. Nafarin, and also a presentation from Mr. Nafarin. Mr. Nafarin is the head of Regional Investment Office of South Kalimantan Province. Thank you so much, Pak Nafarin, for your presentation and the video. Now I would like to invite the first panelist, Mr. Ahmad Yamini, the head of Statistics and Coding Section, Department of Communication and Information, Tanah Laut Regency, Regional Government. Mr. Ahmad Yamini has more than 5 years of experience as a leader in a number of departments at Tanah Laut Regency Regional Government. Between 2014 and 16, he was the head of Supervision, Control, and Enforcement of Environmental Laws, Local Environmental Board. He then was assigned as the head of Department in Research and Development, Local Planning Development Board, and hold the position for 3 years before selected as the head of Department of Statistics and Coding, Communication, and Informatics last year. He holds a bachelor degree in social welfare study from Pajajaran University and a master degree in community development from La Trobe University in Victoria, Australia. Before Mr. Ahmad Yamini present the presentation, Mr. Ahmad Yamini also would like to present a video first and then the presentation. Welcome, Mr. Ahmad Yamini. The screen is yours.
Welcome to Tanah Laut Regency of the district in the province of South Kalimantan.
Tanah Laut Regency is one of the districts in the province of South Kalimantan with an area of 3,631.5 square kilometers. Tanah Laut district is grouped into two parts, the coastal part of the sea and the land plain. The potential of the plains is widely asked for plantation, rice fields, and other agriculture. Another potential in the large plains is the field of livestock. Animal husbandry in Tanah Laut is growing rapidly because the availability of green land as animal feed is quite extensive. But thus that grow naturally and thus planted by the community and have special sporting facilities such as slaughterhouses and animal markets. Tanah Laut Regency has long been known as a center for livestock in South Kalimantan Province. especially for cattle, based on data from the Agency of Animal Husbandry of Tanah Laut Regency. The development of the cattle population in Tanah Laut continues to increase every year. For 2017, the cattle population was 75,642. For 2018, there were 88,076. And in 2019, the cattle population in Tanah Laut Regency was 90,064 heads. For cattle sold of Tanah Laut Regency in 2017, as many as 7,600 head, with a nominalization of 114 billion rupiah. In 2018, as many as 7,900 heads, with a nominalization of 118 billion 500 million rupiah, and in 2019 a total of 10,494 head with a nominalization of 157 billion 410 million rupiah. Tanah Laut Regency is currently the center for cattle in South and Central Kalimantan, where 60% of the demand for beef in South and Central Kalimantan is supplied from Tanah Laut, and is the only active animal market in South and Central Kalimantan. See this great potential, the regional government is trying to continue to encourage the growth of the livestock population in Tanah Laut Regency. Currently, Tanah Laut Regency government owns 150 hectares of land which is owned by farmers as livestock land as well as agriculture with corn commodities. But the position of the land is on the side of an arterial road or national road, so it is not suitable for us cattle grazing. The regional government itself has 3 areas that are being prepared to be used as livestock grazing land, namely 10 hectare in Pagatan Besar village, 50 hectare of Kuala Tambangan village in Takisung district. If the land can be utilized, it will greatly encourage the development of livestock in Tanah Laut, not only to meet the needs of cattle in Kalimantan. It is not impossible to meet the needs of cattle in Indonesia. This is what we want to achieve through a program to increase the population of cattle.
Thank you so much, Ms. Amalia. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen in Australia, and good morning, almost noon in Indonesia. First of all, on behalf of my local government, the Tanah Laut Regency, I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. This moment actually meaningful and pride for us to be a part of this forum. Before that, I will introduce you. In left my hand is Mr. Joko Waryanto. He is head of the Tanah Laut Investment and Integrated Licensing Services Agency. And then beside him, Mr. Suharyo. He is head of the Livestock and Animal Health Services Agency. And is the Mr. Teddy. He is from the Financial and Asset Management Board. And today, I will present one of the potential resource in the Tanah Laut Regency, namely cattle farm, and focus on the development area, land status, and potential for the cooperation and investment value as well. And actually, Tanah Laut has a lot of the resources, such as coal mines, oil palm plantation, corn, rubber, fuel rice, and other on the land, and we also have the rich product from the sea, especially for fisheries from the sea and from the freshwater as well as. And next, for your information that since a long time ago, Tanah Laut Regency has been known as the cattle producing area, whereas in more than the 60% the meat demand in South Kalimantan and some area in Central Kalimantan is supplied from the Tanah Laut Regency. That's why there are many potential collaboration that we can do. And we offer some of them, such as the first one is the beef cattle trade between regencies or provinces. And secondly is the manure and biogas processing industry. And the last one is the meat processing industry. Next, I will talk about the potential investment in the beef cattle development and the fattening in the Tanah Laut Regency. Why Tanah Laut deserve to be considered? The first one is based on the information from the statistic of South Kalimantan. Tanah Laut Regency is the first position for the cattle population in South Kalimantan. Secondly, based on data from the livestock and animal health services of the Tanah Laut, in 2019, they were reached more than 90,000 beef cattle population, and the number each year it continues to increase. Next, actually, Tanah Laut has 11 sub-regencies, and at the moment, development of cattle breeding is spread over than 5 sub-regencies. However, all sub-regencies in the Tanah Laut the same potential for development. And then point number 4, currently in South Kalimantan province, only in Tanah Laut there are animal market, especially for cattle. This market located in Pelaihari, the capital city of the Tanah Laut Regency, and this market is open every day, but more deal or transaction is on Monday. And as additional information, every week on Monday, there are more than 300 until 400 cows sold with a value more than 5 million rupiah, or equal with the around 460,000 Australian dollar. And you can imagine if the number is multiplied in 1 year, and this can be a consideration that this investment is very promising. And then the last one, to support and compile a development cattle farm plan, Tanah Laut government also collaborate with some university in the South Kalimantan to conduct a feasibility study on cow development and cattle farm design. Now we talk about the availability and status of the land. Number 1 is Kuala Tambangan village in the Takisung sub-regencies. The area more than 50 hectares. This location is about 25 kilometers from the Tanah Laut capital city. The location is near the beach and near the farm oil. And then road to the access location is so easy. This area potential to beef cattle development and fattening. And then the number 2 is the Pagatan Besar village, also in Takisung sub-regency. Large area is about 10 hectares. And this location is also 25 kilometers from the capital city, near the river. Access to the location is easy, and this area suitable for the development of resources area for the beef cattle breed. And most important thing that all of the area is owned by local government. And then that is our presentation. We hope you understand it. Come to my beloved Tanah Laut Regency, please, and be our partner in development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Yamini, for the presentation, beef cattle and range development. I would like to also remind the participants to post your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. So during these presentations, you can keep on posting your question there. So I would like to, we are now welcome our second panelist, Mr. Murianta, Head of Regional Investment Agency, Banjarmasin City, to present waste to energy power plant in Banjarmasin. Mr. Murianta is currently the head of Regional Investment Office of Banjarmasin City, or mostly known as DPM-PTSP, or Dinas Penanaman Modal Pelayanan Terpadu Satu Pintu. He has been working in a public sector for the entire duration of his career since 1990. He has been a leader in several regional infrastructure subsector development until his recent assignment to lead the Regency's investment agency 4 years ago. He earned his bachelor degree in engineering from the 10 November Institute of Technology and a master degree in engineering from Bandung Institute of Technology. Mr. Muryanta will start with presentation Waste to Energy, followed by a video. Welcome, Mr. Muryanta. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Amalia. Thank you for your time. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen in Indonesia. My name is Muryanta. Today I will discussing the current opportunity we have for waste to energy potential through the proposal transformation the public landfill known as TPA of Basire. There are several investment in Banjarmasin, namely investment of trade. There are many place for market. The second, investment of tourism. Usually tourism about with the river. The third investment of industry. There are many industry like rubber, wood, and industry of ship in Banjarmasin. The fourth, investment of wastewater, and finally, investment of electricity. There are ways of waste to energy. We have simple we have a simple breakdown to Banjarmasin city by brief description. Banjarmasin, this is a capital province of south of Kalimantan, south of Kalimantan, with located at average elevation about 0.16 meter below sea level, with a relative flat and swampy area. The area of Banjarmasin city is about 96.82 kilometer, or 2.26% area from province of south of Kalimantan. But the total population in Banjarmasin about around 200,000 people. And Banjarmasin consists of 5 districts and divided by 52 sub-districts. The supporting facilities for the ease of investment in the city of Banjarmasin, especially around the TPA Basire, there are close for Trisakti Port, about 6 kilometers from Trisakti Port, the Basire area, and many highly rated hotel in the area. It is 175 large and small river, so is Banjarmasin calls 1,000 river. Next. This is a location of final disposal site of Basire. In my hand side right, this is arterial road with the width of 60 meter, and intern road to final disposal site about 500 from for a rigid pavement road. The area size 39.5 hectare, with volume for this about 350 until 500 ton, and opportunity waste to energy. This is a quick overview of TPA Basire. From the total population about 7,000 people, produce incoming was about 500 ton per day. And the TPA Basire landfill area has a total area 39.5 hectare, and 20 hectare are used for garbage storage, and the remaining 15.5 hectare are for office, garage, and sewage treatment plant. So the estimate that with 4 hectare of land remaining and 138,130 ton per year of incoming waste, TPA Basire can only accommodate waste for the next few years. And the Basire also home of number of support heavy equipment with 60 truck for excavator and 2 bulldozer. The result analysis, the better composition was as description component content of the solid waste and its distribution. We have the major regulation of burned plastic bag for retail shop and modern shop since 3 years ago. Next. Yes, just like to show you the flow the water processing in Banjarmasin. Usually in Banjarmasin from household, water transported by garbage car in its environment and to the temporary disposal site. From temporary disposal site, hauling by truck to the final disposal site. And the infrastructure supported, there are temporary disposal site 113 unit and temporary disposal site 3R 11 unit, integrated temporary disposal site 3 unit, waste bank 276, and compost household 1 unit, treated compost household 1 unit, and final deposit site 1 unit, and supported transport 120 for mobile. Next. This is the slide discuss some of the costs. There are 11 hectare of land available adjacent to TPA Basire. The average land price offer at a low about 14 Australia dollar per square meter. The location and of land available in the south next to the landfill, and was management cost in Banjarmasin. The government of Banjarmasin City annually spend 3.6 million Australia dollar, and in managing waste, while the original local incoming from the waste management 1.6 million Australia dollar, and conclusion of government Banjarmasin City issued an annual budget about 2 million Australia dollar. Next. This is investor facility by Banjarmasin City government. the Banjarmasin City government will provide facilities, especially in terms of permit and providing assessment and processing them. For form of cooperation operate state owner power plant with investor, regional owner enterprise with investor, Banjarmasin City government with investor, all local entrepreneur and investor. Next. And now we can see and take a look of the TPA Basire video. This is my presentation, and thank you for your time and attention, and we will back to the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Murianta, for the waste to energy power plant presentation in Banjarmasin. We will now come to the last presentation for today's webinar. Please welcome Mr. Alain Fillmore Harris, Subdivision Head, Planning Division, Department of Public Work and Spatial Planning, South Kalimantan, to present dam and hydropower plant in Kusan Dam. Mr. Alain Fillmore Harris started his career in public sector as the staff of Planning Division, Secretariat of Public Works and Spatial Planning, Department of South Kalimantan in 2011. He then got assigned as the Subdivision Head of Human Resources and General Affairs, Secretariat of Public Works and Spatial Planning, Department of South Kalimantan in 2016, before moving back to the Planning Division as the Subdivision Head in 2017, a position in which he continues to excel until now. He holds a bachelor degree in Economic Management from Malang State University and a master degree in Management from Brawijaya University in Malang. Welcome, Mr. Alain Fillmore. Mr. Alain Fillmore will also present a video and then continue with the presentation. Welcome, Mr. Alain Fillmore Harris. The screen is yours.
One of major problems occur in Tanah Bumbu Regency is flood disaster. The flood is often occur every year, especially the downstream area of the Kusan River flow, Apart from the problem of flooding, Tanah Bumbu and Kota Baru Regency are experiencing a deficit in electrical energy. To solve this problem, Government of Tanah Bumbu Regency plans to build a multi-purpose dam on the Kusan River. The plan to build a multi-purpose dam on Kusan River is parallel with policies of South Kalimantan Provincial Government, especially Tanah Bumbu Regency Government, where optimization of agricultural sector is a top priority. Multi-purpose dams are needed to control flood discharge as well as use it for raw water supply and irrigated rice fields. Discharge also can be used for hydropower plants to support industrial areas in Batulicin City. The location of the dam is in the Mangkalapi village, Kusan Hulu district, Tanah Bumbu Regency. This can be achieved from construction of dam are as follows: controlling 69 million meter cubic of flood discharge, supplying water for 18.318 hectares of irrigation area, supplying water for 0.5 meter cubic per second flow of raw water needs. Potential hydroelectric energy with 40.5 megawatts of installed capacity. Potential tourism by adding building facilities. Kusan Dam construction cost 2.91 trillion Indonesian rupiah or 273.6 Australian dollar with 5 years of construction period.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. An honor to meet you all. In this opportunity, I would like to present about Kusan Dam. The purpose of my presentation is to explain about Kusan project status and description, then Kusan Dam location plan and technical data. Finally, I will explain the purpose of the Kusan Dam. Okay. Kusan Dam in South Kalimantan location is in Teluk Kepayan Village, Kusan Hulu Sub-District, Tanah Bumbu Regency, near Indonesia New Capital Area in East Kalimantan. This construction cost about 2.91 trillion Indonesian rupiah or 278.9 million Australian dollar. The area for this Kusan Dam is need about 80,318 hectares. The status of this project is pre-feasibility study was conducted in 1989, feasibility study was conducted in 2016, DED model test and dam certification in 2019. One of major problem occurs in Tanah Bumbu Regency is flood disaster. The flood is often occurring every year, especially the downstream area of the Kusan River flow. Apart from the problem of flooding, Tanah Bumbu and Kota Baru Regency are experiencing a deficit in electrical energy. To solve this problem, government of Tanah Bumbu Regency planned to build a multi-purpose dam on the Kusan River. Kusan Dam is a multi-purpose dam that serves as flood control, irrigation for agriculture, hydroelectric power plant, and raw water source for drinking use. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the map of Kusan Dam location. In this map, you can see that the Kusan Dam location construction area located in Malangkapi village. Meanwhile, Kusan River located across 3 villages. Those villages are Batu Bulan village, Tamoni village, and Mangkalapi village. Next. This is an addition area on Kusan River basin. You can see that in addition area is 274 hectares across 3 villages, with the Mangkapi is the most affected one. We can see the Kusan upstream, the location of Kusan Dam, and the Kusan downstream. Next, this is the layout of Kusan Dam from detailed engineering design 2019. We can see the planning of the Kusan Dam, where is the located for the powerhouse, the plan of the spillway, the plan from dam diversion tunnel number 1 and dam diversion tunnel number 2. Next, this is the existing condition of Kusan River. Kusan River itself has total length about 215 kilometers, mean width of 30 meters, and catchment area of 210,000 hectares. We can see the left condition and the right condition. Next, in this slide, we can see the technical data of Kusang Dam. The type of dam is hydropower dam with landslide stone. The type of the cover dam is landslide stone. And we can see the dam diversion tunnel. The type is the segmental, and the type of spillway is floodgates and emergency spillway. Next. Okay, in this slide, we can see the technical data of Kusang Dam of water surface height in dry season and the water surface height and at rainy season. We can see to the planning of install capacity that will produce about 40 50 watt from the 3 power plant. Next, we continue the multi-purpose of Kusang Dam. The problem that we're facing right now in Tanah Bumbu Regency are the flood control. Kusang watershed is prone to be flooded, especially Kusang downstream. Therefore, reducing the impact of flooding on Kusang downstream. Kusang Dam can control 69 million cubic meter of flood discharge when returning 25 years. The purpose number 2 is for irrigation. The dam can provide water for 80,318 hectares of 4 irrigation areas. There are for Kusang Hulu area, Kusang Hilir area, Kuranji area, and extensification area. The third one is the raw water for drinking use. Access to clean water in Tanah Bumbu Regency until 2040 only reaches about approximately 25.11%. Kusang Dam can supply water for 0.5 cubic meter per second flow of raw water for PDAM, Indonesian Regional Water Utility Company. The fourth purpose of this Kusang Dam is hydroelectric power plant. Due to lack electrical energy, Tanah Bumbu Regency conducted plant blackout regularly, and there are 7 villages that still not have electricity. Okay, maybe the slide will be shown again. I continue with the purpose of Kusang Dam for hydroelectric power plant. Due to lack electrical energy, Tanah Bumbu Regency conduct plant blackout regularly, and there are 7 villages that still not have electricity. Kusang Dam have potential hydroelectric energy with 41 megawatt of installed capacity to decrease the deficit of electricity that occurs. Next slide is we can see the hydroelectric power plant. So the hydroelectric power plant in Kusang Dam is specially needed to serve Batu Licin in the industrial zone. The powerhouse is planned with 3 turbines. For each turbine is supplied by water 21 cubic meter per second. So SPLN, State Electricity Company, can provide until 30.55 megawatt per turbine. For this Kusang Dam project, we have a supporting facility for transportation. We have 2 terminals, we have 2 airports like Samsudin Nur and Batu Licin Persudut Airport, and we have 2 harbor, Trisakti Harbor and Batu Licin Samudra Harbor. Transportation from Banjarmasin to Tanah Bumbu Batu Licin cover a distance about 259 kilometers. While using land transportation takes about 6 hours, and for using an airplane only takes about 45 minutes. Another supporting facility we have that we provide a hospital, we have a hotel, and we have an education park. In conclusion, this Kusang Dam is a multi-purpose dam that can solve several problems. Thank you very much for your listening. May all those have shared will be beneficial for all us. We will back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alain Fillmore Harris, for the presentation for the hydroelectric investment opportunities. We now come to the Q&A session. As mentioned previously, we will be drawing questions that have been submitted in advance and during presentation. So I would like to start with Mr. Ahmad Yamini for the beef, cattle husbandry and range development discussion. Mr. Ahmad Yamini, the question number 1 is, how is the current situation of cattle feed supply in Tanah Laut Regency? Bagaimana dengan ketersediaan pakan ternak di Kabupaten Tanah Laut? Silahkan. Mr. Ahmad Yamini.
Ya, terima kasih. Jadi kami dari Dinas Peternakan Kabupaten Tanah Laut mengenai ketersediaan pakan di Kabupaten Tanah Laut ini sangat melimpah sekali. Bahkan sekarang dengan penambahan 200.000 ekor ternak sapi, Tanah Laut masih siap untuk menampung karena ketersediaan pakan yang melimpah. Pertama dari limbah padi, limbah jagung, dan limbah sawit.
Excuse me, Mr. Ahmad Yamini, maybe we can translate first and then continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So Tanah Laut Regency has vast green land and it has very vast area that's still available.
Ya, ketersediaan pakan di Kabupaten Tanah Laut ini sangat melimpah. Karena jumlah lahan dan sumber pakan ini cukup banyak, berasal dari limbah tanaman padi, kemudian limbah tanaman jagung, itu baru termanfaatkan kurang lebih 5%.
Okay, the feed for the cattle are from the corn and rice field waste that is still used only for 5%.
Iya. Kemudian limbah dari pelepas sawit ini baru 1% yang dimanfaatkan dari luasan kurang lebih 100.000 hektar.
It also the waste from palm oil plant that only used for about 1%.
Kemudian ditunjang dengan adanya rumput lapangan kurang lebih 7.260 hektar. Ini yang masih punya potensi untuk dijadikan pakan ternak. Jadi sekali lagi sumber pakan ternak di Kabupaten Tanah Laut sangat melimpah.
There is still abundant number of feed for the cattle and also livestock, since it's also supported by the grass field for about 7,200 hectares of land.
Dan sumber pakan tersebut tersedia di sepanjang tahun. Jadi yang kami perlukan adalah sekarang teknologi pengawetan pakan pada saat musim-musim kemarau yang sumbernya sudah tersedia dengan melimpah.
The source is available along the year, and now we need the technology to support how to keep this product during the dry season.
Thank you, Pak.
Ya, terima kasih. Itu informasi dari sumber pakan. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad Yamini. Now comes to the second question. Mr. Ahmad Yamini, please elaborate more on the investment licensing procedure before we can invest in the range development project at Tanah Laut. Bagaimana proses perizinan peternakan sapi di Kabupaten Tanah Laut, Pak?
Oke, terima kasih. Untuk pertanyaan kedua, bagaimana proses perizinan peternakan sapi di Kabupaten Tanah Laut? Garis besarnya kami dari Dinas Penanaman Modal dan PTSP akan sangat mendukung sekali dengan proses investasi yang akan dilaksanakan, dan kami akan membackup penuh untuk proses perizinannya dari awal sampai selesai. Seperti itu mungkin.
The Regional Investment Office of Tanah Laut will back up the process of the licensing from the beginning until the end of the process or the procedures.
Thank you for the answers from the beef cattle husbandry and range development discussion. There are still a couple of questions from the audience, from the participants that will be asked later on this Q&A session. So I will continue to the Mr. Muryanta, waste to energy power plant in Banjarmasin. Question number 1, Mr. Muryanta, can you please explain further on the use or commercialization of the potential energy from the project? And is there any potential distribution opportunity through PLN, PT PLN, and what about the pricing? Is it gonna be PLN who buy the this power, or and how about the price? Bagaimana prospek pemasaran, Pak, dari hasil produksi waste to energy, dan bagaimana komersialisasi, apakah PLN yang akan membeli, dan bagaimana kira-kira harganya?
Terima kasih. Ya, untuk yang membeli, yang pertama adalah PLN. Itu sudah sudah ada penjajakan. Terus kemudian ada daerah industri di sekitarnya, ada beberapa industri. Terus kemudian juga ada beberapa pergudangan. Nah, kemarin dari informasi kurang lebih harganya adalah 950 per kWh. Itu.
Okay, for the buyer is from the state-owned enterprise for electricity and also the industrial zone around the power plant, and also the warehouse area with the price of 950 rupiah per kilowatt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Muryanta. Maybe comes to the second question. How do you describe the availability of access to the project location, especially to support the infrastructure development at the waste to energy project industrial site? Bagaimana ketersediaan akses, Pak, dalam membangun infrastruktur kawasan industri ini?
Aksesnya sangat mudah karena dari lokasi itu, dari pelabuhan, ada jalan raya yang lebarnya 60 meter, kemudian jalan masuk ke TPA itu ada dari concrete pavement kurang lebih 500 meter, dan kemudian juga ada fasilitas-fasilitas bongkar muatnya yang di pelabuhan itu ada 4 buah kontainer crane. Jadi untuk fasilitas akses dan peralatan, mungkin peralatan alat berat insya Allah akan mudah didapatkan.
There is easy and reachable access to the site. There is the main road for about 60 meters wide, and there's the entry road for about 500 meters long, with facilitated with 4 container crane in the port.
Thank you, Mr. Muryanta, for the answers. I will continue with the dam and hydropower plant in Kusandam, Mr. Alain Fillmore Harris. Question number 1 is 2016-2025 electricity supply business plan from PT PLN mentioned that Kusandam hydropower will have the full capacity of 56 megawatt. However, in your presentation, you listed the generation power from Kusandam is only 41 megawatt. Why is there a difference between the electricity supply business plan of PLN and the number that you mentioned in your presentation?
Thank you, Mrs. Amalia. So, Kusandam is planned as a multi-purpose dam. The main purpose is controlling excessive water discharge of Kusan River to reduce the impact of flood that occurs every year. The other purpose of Kusandam are providing water about 18,318 hectares of irrigation areas, supplying 0.5 meter cubic per second of raw water for drinking use. Therefore, the hydroelectric energy can only be provided by 41 megawatt with 3 turbines, with each turbine is 13.5 megawatt turbine due to hydraulic energy reduction. Thank you, Ms. Amalia.
Thank you, Mr. Alain. The second question, in your presentation, it appears that 90% of the dam planned water reservoir area and some part of the area planned for road access to Kusan Dam are within conservation area. How will the local government, as a project operator for this project, ensure that investor that the land procurement can go smoothly to plan the construction of the dam? Because investor is hoping, obviously, that the land area, materials, and road access will be ready to be procured to avoid any delays in the construction phase, and the area as well that will be flooded with the water from the dam also will be ready after the construction phase.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Amalia. So it is known that some areas of reservoir are conflicted. Conflicted areas are local community plantation, industry forest, and secondary forest based on suspended concession forest area map regulated in Instruksi Presiden number 5, 2019 about suspended concession and completion area forest governance and wetland. But in dictum number 2, conflicted area are excluded from the regulation due to areas are used for Kusan Dam. Forest Area Design Bureau, Regional Office of Forestry Planning the 5th in Banjarbaru are updating indication map of recent suspended concession. Maybe this I can explain, Ms. Amalia.
Thank you, Mr. Alain. This is a question for you, Mr. Nafarin, the head of Regional Investment Office of South Kalimantan. From the participants, there is one question that all projects investment information will be coordinated with the South Kalimantan Province local government or with Regency. So, apakah semua project investment informasi mengenai semua project investment ini akan dikoordinasikan dengan pemerintah lokal pemerintah South Kalimantan atau Kalimantan Selatan ataukah kabupaten, Pak?
Kolaborasi antara kabupaten dengan provinsi. Kabupaten memang punya kewenangan juga untuk mempromosikan segala potensinya, dan provinsi pun bisa mempromosikan potensi yang ada di kabupaten. Seperti hari ini, kita mempromosikan tidak hanya punya provinsi, tetapi juga punya kabupaten. Jadi saling misi, dan kami memiliki semua data-data potensi yang ada di kabupaten untuk dipromosikan ke investor. Di prinsip seperti itu.
So the government in the province, in symbiosis relation with the Regency, the potential of the Regencies is compilated in the province, but we also suggested to inform the province about the potential investor that will come to the province or the Regency. So, but the province will be able to inform to another potential Regencies about the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Nafarin. There's another question. This is for the beef cattle and the range development investment opportunity. How to apply for the import permits or quota for the live cattle for the purpose of breeding, as the rule and regulation is very strict and the quota itself is very limited. Maybe Mr. Ahmad Yamini can answer the question, bagaimana untuk apply permit ya dan atau kuota untuk live cattle untuk breeding, Pak. Dan karena kan regulasinya sangat strict sekali dan kuotanya juga sangat terbatas.
Ya, baik, mengenai kuota untuk memang kita harapkan ya kuota itu khusus kita berikan kepada masyarakat kita berupa indukan. Jadi indukan unggul kita harapkan itulah yang akan digaduhkan atau dipelihara oleh masyarakat, sehingga diharapkan peran masyarakat dengan adanya investasi ini ikut terlibat. Jadi kami mengharapkan minimal 250 ekor sampai dengan ya kalau misalnya mampu 1.000 ekor kita siap untuk menampung. Terima kasih.
The Tanah Laut Regency is actually limited the quota for the cattle for the local farmer in Tanah Laut Regency, and the quota available is for about 250 to 1,000 cattle in Tanah Laut.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad Yamini, for the answer. We have another question for Mr. Muryanta, Waste to Energy Power Plant in Banjarmasin. Does this has this waste management already built or need to be expanded? And how far is it if it's already built?
Kalau seandainya ini bisa dibangun, energi ini itu tidak memerlukan perluasan untuk TPA-nya. Tetapi kalau mungkin ini nanti tidak dibangun, berarti harus mempersiapkan perluasan untuk tempat penimbunan sampahnya, karena hanya bisa menampung kurang lebih barangkali hanya 5 tahun ke depan sudah akan penuh.
For the land for the waste because it's only enough to cover 5 years ahead number of the waste, but if it's actually doesn't need to be expanded if it only for the power plant itself.
Thank you, Pak Muryanta. There's one last question. This is for Pak Ahmad Yamini for the beef and cattle. Is there any are we allowed to have a meat processing plant or abattoir, or is there any plan to do the development in the meat processing plant or abattoir? Apakah akan ada rencana untuk membangun meat processing plant atau abattoir, Pak?
Ya, memang kita sebenarnya sudah punya rumah potong hewan, tapi masih sederhana dengan kapasitas maksimal 10 ekor per hari. Jadi kedepannya kita ingin memiliki rumah potong hewan yang modern, tentunya memiliki yang memiliki kapasitas lebih besar, sehingga kita dapat melayani pelayanan pemotongan hewan secara higienis sesuai dengan kaidah pemotongan yang benar. Tentunya itu yang kita harapkan ke depannya. Dan kami akan berkoordinasi dengan baik antar instansi, terutama dengan perizinan, dan kami akan mengusahakan untuk kemudahan-kemudahan mengenai perizinan ini apabila RPH tersebut, rumah potong hewan tersebut, kita bangun di Kabupaten Tanah Laut. Terima kasih.
Tanah Laut Regency already has the meat processing center with the maximum capacity is for 10 cattle per day, and Tanah Laut Regency still need to expand. Want to expand the meat processing center to a modern one with bigger capacity, and they also available. They also welcome for those who want to invest, and they promise the ease in doing business in Tanah Laut Regency.
Thank you for the answer. This is probably the last one, the last question. This is for Mr. Alain. How much capacity of Kusan hydropower, and when is it predicted to be operated?
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Amalia. So the capacity is from this Kusan dam is about 41 megawatt. When the dam is built, then it can be operated as soon as possible. Okay, maybe that is the answer. Thank you, Ms. Amalia.
Thank you so much, panelists, for your question and for answering all the questions from our participants today and also previously submitted to us. So to get more information on the information on all of the projects, you can email invest@iipcsydney.com, and also maybe from that email you can be directed to the right email addresses for all the projects. So thank you again for the great discussion, excellent ready to offer investment projects for Australian wanting to expand to their portfolio in Indonesia, and this project will support local communities as well as transforming challenges into opportunities. And we are now at the end of today's webinar. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank you all for joining us and your active participation today. And thanking our panelists again for their great presentations and valuable information shared with us. I hope you enjoyed and found the webinar useful. I am honored to be the moderator for today, and thank you once again. To conclude, I would like to invite again Mr. Muhammad Syarif Alatas, Deputy Chief of Mission of the Republic of Indonesia in Canberra, to deliver the closing remarks, followed by a closing video of BKPM. Mr. Muhammad Syarif Alatas, the screen is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ibu Amalia. First of all, thank you so much to all participants, to all speakers, panelists for presenting all the investment project in South Kalimantan. I'm very pleased to note that there are a great potential of investment in South Kalimantan. Let me also thank all the participants who have been with us since the first webinar and follow our webinar series continuously until today's webinar, which would be the third and final part of our webinar series. We had our first webinar on tourism sector project on the 27th of August, and the second one we have on the 10th of September, presenting project from East Java province, and the third webinar, which was held today, presenting projects from South Kalimantan. There are 11 different ready to offer projects that were presented throughout the 3 webinars. Those projects come from different sectors, including tourism, manufacturing, agriculture, renewable energy, as well as infrastructure. And they are ready to welcome investors who want to invest in Indonesia. Forums like this are essential for conveying up-to-date information and holding discussion on how we can further boost economic relations between Indonesia and Australia. I hope the strong partnership that we have with our colleagues, both in Indonesia and throughout Australia, will continue to grow and prosper. Indonesia Mission in Australia, namely Indonesian Embassy in Canberra, Indonesia Investment Promotion Center in Sydney, all Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, and also Consulate of the Republic of Indonesia in Darwin, are ready to facilitate all the investment interest from Australia investors in Indonesia. For further communication and inquiries about the project presented in all 3-part webinar series, please do not hesitate to contact us to arrange a one-on-one meeting with related stakeholder or project owners. Please also reach us for any other investment inquiries, as we would be more than happy to facilitate all the investment interests from Australia to Indonesia. Through this opportunity, I would like to thank all the organizers behind this webinar series, my colleague from the Indonesian Embassy, my colleague from the Indonesian Investment Promotion Center in Sydney, all the Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, and also in Darwin, Consulate of the Republic of Indonesia in Darwin, and also Australia Indonesian Business Council, AIBC, and especially Mr. Phil Turtle, Mr. Emmanuel Setiawan, and also Ms. Amalia Sosrodirejo as the moderator of the webinar series. They have done such a great job to ensure our webinar went smoothly and successfully, and all other parties that have contributed to ensure the success of the webinar series. Please also give me an opportunity to thank the Regional Investment Office of the Government of South Kalimantan, who has coordinated with us to invite all the speakers and facilitating our investment promotion event. And thank you to all the speakers for presenting all the investment project today. I hope that today's webinar will open up a new connection and increases awareness of your investment project in Australia. Thank you once again. I hereby close this webinar series. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Working with professional and equal business partners creates a stronger confidence. Right across the land of opportunity, confidence and harmony, with a strong and growing economy, a young, expanding middle class, talented human capital, and a huge market to achieve higher levels of success with abundant opportunities together. Invest in remarkable Indonesia.
Pak DCM.
Ya.
Terima kasih Pak, acara telah
Terima kasih Pak Henry.
Pak Nafarin juga, para panelis.
Para panelis.
Terima kasih Pak Deputi, terima kasih Pak Henry.
Pak Konjen juga.
Thank you.
Pak Konjen.